it has to be worth the social sacrifice. You will change your relationship. It's going to make things uncomfortable, but what you're saying has to be important enough that it's worth you creating that friction.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Rob, how's it going?
I feel refreshed. I, as you know, recently came back from a long weekend with a bunch of my cousins in New Orleans. I've not been there in 25 years.
Yeah, we missed an upload of Shrink Space because you were topless on Bourbon Street. That's sort of how I've thought about this whole experience.
Unfortunately, I was topless, but no one threw any beads my way, so I tried not to take it personally.
Everybody hid their beads.
Yeah, everyone was
Yeah.
saying, "Put your shirt back on, we'll give you beads." Yeah, that was my bad. I thought I could reserve time for it, and that was a lofty goal that I probably shouldn't have committed to in the first place. But no, good time, feeling refreshed. Um, and have you been to New Orleans recently?
I've never been to New Orleans.
Okay, never.
I've never been.
All right.
Always wanted to go, but I sort of feel like I am past my Bourbon Street prime because in my mind, it's just Mardi Gras
Yeah,
and it's just you go there to get topless or to see people get topless. And I feel like
yeah.
I can no longer do that. I've been put up to pasture. I'm no longer allowed.
I would imagine that people would have a similar reaction to seeing you topless as they did me.
Mhm.
And I would say there's a lot more to it than Mardi Gras. There's awesome food. I ate very well when I was down there. So
Beignets. That's like the donuts with powder all over them.
yeah, the beignets, but also just all the shrimp, all the seafood, all like the Creole and the Cajun cooking, solid.
Yeah, yeah.
So if nothing else, it would be worthwhile to go down there just for good food.
Why don't we do
So
one of our team trips there?
I'd be down for it.
That'd be fun to go there.
It would. It would. I had a good time. Being down there actually helped, and just conversations I had. So I was there with there's 11 of us, so a big group,
And these are
friend group,
all your cousins.
cousins, and then like my cousins' significant others too. It's like my wife went with me,
Uh-huh.
and my cousins who are married, who came, their spouses all came as well.
That is, I think, very unique that you have that kind of a relationship with your cousins, that you do trips with them without the larger family. It's very cool.
I definitely feel really lucky, and it spans ages too. So I'm 40, and my youngest cousin who came was 30, and so there's a big age gap there as well.
Are you the glue that keeps everybody together?
I'm certainly at least one of the glues. I'm a convener, Dave. I like to bring people together. I do this with my family. I do this with my friends. I do it at work. It's something I generally enjoy doing.
I like to be I don't know what the right word is. I like to be convened.
You like to be corralled.
I
Yeah.
like to be corralled. Yes.
You need to
Yes.
be corralled.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I like to do the corralling. And thank God that a lot of people in my life enjoy being corralled.
Uh,
Uh, and for those unfortunate few who don't,
yeah, if you
it can cause some conflict.
you're like a rabid sheepdog.
That's that's an on point description. You will be corralled.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just telling a couple coworkers today. I've had two recent experiences where I've really tried to not just jump in and tell everyone like this is what we're gonna do. This is what's happening. I'm gonna take care of it because there again are people in my life who don't always appreciate you know my strong opinions and desire to convene people.
Oh, and, how are you doing emotionally not convening?
Well, I am talking about it now. I've talked about it
I'm processing it right now.
twice, like two additional times today. So, I'm doing, if you're just looking at behaviorally, am I doing it? Yes, I'm doing it. Do I have a lot of feelings and thoughts about it? I sure do. It's a process, Dave. It's
That's
a
good.
process.
That's good. You're growing.
But in the when we were all in New Orleans, a question got brought up that I thought would be a good topic for us to talk about today. It got brought up because someone that I am close with is recently divorced, And yeah, I mean, very recently, within the past couple of weeks. It was surprising to me that this particular couple got divorced. I wouldn't have necessarily thought that this was going to happen. And it got brought up. I brought it up with my cousins.
Mhm.
And the question I essentially asked was, if you thought that someone, a friend of yours, someone you loved, someone you cared for, was in a bad relationship, whether it's a marriage or a non-marriage, just long-term relationship, would you say something?
To start my answer, let me can I tell you a story about my dad? My dad
Yeah.
who has passed, so, I can share candidly his behavior, which I find very endearing.
Okay.
So there was a family friend whose daughter was dating and going to marry this man. And my dad met the man and he would shave his whole body and he had his hair like totally manicured. And my dad, who's a little bit more of a rough and tumble mentality type person, like could not get over the amount of like cologne and hair gel, and the fact that this guy was like a dolphin. And so my dad everybody's like, "So, what do you think?" And my dad goes, he's gay, right?" And everybody goes, "What? He's not gay." And my dad goes, "Okay." And everybody's like, he's not gay." Everybody's like, created this whole fight. And all my dad would say is, "Okay, you're right." But like he did it in a way that was very clear that he thought the guy was gay.
Yeah.
And they got married and they were divorced within like 11 months with suspicions that he was out and about in the evenings. So,
Uh-oh.
so I think about that and that my dad, this person was so excited about her daughter getting married. The family was involved in it. There was all of this energy going towards the relationship. This was the right person. Everything was perfect. And there was no way. I mean, everybody thought this guy was a little bit weird, but
Yeah.
nobody would ever say anything about the relationship or make any kind of critique except my dad, who people thought was very rude that he would intervene in that kind of way. He was right. I mean, it wasn't a good fit,
Right.
but it didn't. There was a sort of nothing that you could do. Once the ship is going, people aren't really looking for what do you think. No one's actually going to care what your perspective is. They're going to think it's not your business and that you're overstepping. So what do you? So that's my answer to you. Is I think the answer is I think you watch the train wreck happen because nobody really cares what you think.
Did your dad ever talk to anyone involved in that family after the marriage fell apart?
Yes.
And did he remind them
No,
that he thought
he
it was not gonna work?
no, he didn't. No, he never did.
Did anyone acknowledge the fact that he was
Yes. Everybody
okay,
else acknowledged that. Yeah. Oh,
they
yeah.
did.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
I imagine
100%.
if I was your dad in that situation, it I would feel pretty pretty good about myself. Like, not good that the marriage ended, but pretty good that I was the only one who called it
Yeah. Yeah.
and that so quickly
Yes.
it happened.
Yeah. I think he. Yeah. I think he probably did. And it's a kind of a boss move to know that you could say "I told you so," but you don't. You never say it.
Even better. I
You
I
know what I
mean,
mean? Yeah.
I hope
It's like
when I find myself in a situation like that in the future, I'm able to
Mhm,
not say I told you so.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he was like, "It's really sad that's not working out."
Mhm. And I think, I mean, maybe you have, I think that's a good story. I have, stories of people who have gone into marriages and some of whom are still married, but like going into it would be very outspoken about to what I would assume is way too many people, how unhappy they were about going into the marriage.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My dad was a family practice physician for, I don't know, 30 something years. He would ask patients of his who got divorced oftentimes, what did you think before you were getting married? Are you surprised that this thing ended in divorce? It's not going to necessarily be the most objective response you're going to get after divorce has happened.
Mhm.
But he would routinely say, like, half to two-thirds of people would say, yeah, I knew this was not going to work before I went into it.
Really? like, can you look at a couple and think this is not gonna work out? Do you ever feel that way?
I can think of one that I thought that, and well, I can think of 2 where it happened, but I don't think it would take you know, a psychologist, like an
To
in-depth,
figure Oh,
like study of this relationship to understand that it was gonna not work.
mhm,
And then there's one that I am surprised. I mean, it's a longer term relationship that still seems to be going.
mhm, mhm.
So I mean, I don't know that I'm any better than average at guessing that.
Me neither. I was thinking, I don't think I've ever really judged it right. Like, when I've had judgments about people, that's not true. But I think most often I don't judge it right.
Yeah.
And I think it's tricky because there's all different kinds of things that keep a relationship together. Like, I could tell you, I think this is a healthy or an unhealthy relationship, but oftentimes the unhealthy relationships if you have 2 people that are sick in some way, let's just call it drug use or whatever, mental health stuff, but they will oftentimes they'll enable each other to live in a negative way, and they'll tolerate a shitty relationship for a long time because we're gonna both do our thing that we wanna do, and no one's gonna hold us accountable. Then there's relationships where it looks like a disaster, but they hold it together just because they think it's better for the kids. And then there's some where it looks like it's perfect and one person's not happy and they've been hiding the lack of satisfaction. It's like it's really hard to judge it for me.
Yeah. I, I would say so. Like in the example I'm thinking of, one like that prompted this conversation or topic in the first place. One member of the couple is an extremely quiet, reserved person. I didn't know her very well, but it was like trying to figure out kind of what she's thinking or feeling in any given time was difficult.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I was thinking, I was reflecting after I heard the news. My God, it was surprising to me, maybe in part because I just would have no idea what this person is actually thinking or feeling most of the time.
Yeah.
I want to go back to if you should do it. So you were saying no.
I think no, yeah, I think no. What do you yeah.
Well, I don't think it's as simple as that. And let me challenge you here. Let's say you said yes. When would you? Let's say a close friend, close family member, someone you cared about, you thought was going into however you want to define bad relationship. What type of bad? What did you have to observe in order for you to say something?
If I had to, or the reasons I would be if I felt like my friend was going to be mistreated
Yep.
in the relationship. So if I felt like and I don't care what the gender is, if I felt like my friend was being disempowered or minimized or used in the relationship, I think I would say, "Hey, this does not seem healthy." Yeah, I would do that. Yeah, that's probably where but the argument wouldn't be your marriage isn't gonna work out. The argument would be you don't seem like you don't seem like you're you in this relationship. I'm worried about what the marriage will look like when you can't be you or there's years of negative treatment.
Mhm. That's what I was thinking too. I would most likely intervene if I thought the person I cared about was engaged or about to be engaged or married to someone who was abusive to some extent, was overly controlling. Like, you and I could talk about our definitions of being controlling and manipulative, and we may not have the exact same definition, but there's some point to where, you know, 99 out of 100 people are going to have to observe something and say, this is pretty controlling and or manipulative. And I think I would say something in that situation as well. So I think what we're both saying here is it would have to be a pretty noticeable bad situation for us to say something.
Yeah, yeah. I would be trying to protect my friend. That would
And
be like
that's
the
it.
mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, it's protective. Whereas like the example you shared about your dad, I would never say anything in that situation.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, he's just saying I see a red flag here,
Yeah.
but he's making some big assumptions,
Uh-huh.
you
Uh-huh.
know.
I think the only so let me put another scenario your way. What if someone is in what you deem to be an unhealthy relationship, but others may not? But that person asks you explicitly, what do you think?
I think to a fault, will well, hold on. Are you saying they're gonna get married and they're asking, "What do I think about the marriage?"
Yeah, what do you think about the relationship? It's a long-term relationship, and they're asking, what do you think about their fiance, husband or wife to be, or long-term partner?
I would tell them everything I think. I would I mean, that I feel like I do that with my all my like, any of my friends that ever ask me what I think about their relationship, if I think there's a problem, I'll tell them.
Mhm.
I remember one time trying to how to this was back when I was in graduate school. I went over to one of a colleague's house, and I could not stand the way he was talking to his wife. And I mean, he was just my friend was the one that was super harsh and punitive and minimizing. And I eventually said to him, like at the barbecue, I go, "You are riding her." I forget how I said it. I didn't say you're right. I'm I mean, I said something like you are, being very critical. I forget how
Yeah.
I said it, but I said I mean, there's enough that I was like, "Hey, so I feel like I will if it's a friend and I care about him, I'll say this is not good for your
Mhm.
relationship." Would you?
I'm sure I have been asked, maybe not super directly, like, Rob, what do you think about this person and me getting married to them?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm sure I've been asked something a little bit less direct. I can't come up with an example. Just knowing myself, I would probably, instead of answering the question, because it does feel like there's a lot of downside to being honest in that situation. I'd like to be as direct as you were being there in that situation, but I would imagine what I would instead do is ask some sort of like clarifying question. What do you want me specifically to say? Which is a bit of a way to weasel out of it.
I have two questions for you. Does it vary by gender for you? Like, would you be more likely to say something based on gender?
I don't know. Like, just theoretically, because I don't have good like specific examples, I could see myself being more direct if a a guy asked me that question than
Yeah.
if a woman asked me that question. But why is that? I don't like the fact that I just admitted that, but I think it's true.
I think I would be the opposite. I'd be more transparent with the woman, I think, than the man.
Yeah.
You'd be more transparent with the man.
Yeah, I
Jeez,
think so.
what
But
a horrible person you are. This looks bad. This we have a largely female audience, Rob.
yeah, I think it's in part because, well, I don't know. I'm just coming with all examples of people who I think might have asked me this question before and why that is. I don't know why it is. I think I would be slightly more, but I imagine that like the people I think might have asked me this question before are women. I don't think a guy has ever asked me this question that I can remember.
But it'd be easier for you to say to the guy, "This woman's a problem."
I think, but I don't have any experiences where that's been the case. So maybe I'm just thinking I could be a bit more direct with this guy.
Oh, I see. You can be more direct with the guy.
Yeah.
I feel like I would be protecting I would feel more protective of the woman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's interesting.
yeah, it is. I think in general though that would be my either that, and then I was thinking about what you were saying in your example with your friend, and I've been in situations like that. I don't address it as directly as you do though. I probably right 'cause sarcasm is a bit more of my crutch, and
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
probably say something a bit more like sarcastic, like, you know, well, what the fuck is wrong with you today? Like, have a bad day?
yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah,
Something
yeah,
like that. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't address it directly,
yeah.
which is not necessarily the right thing to do. But I think doing that sometimes helps me gauge, all right, how receptive is this person going to
Yes,
be to talk about this thing right now?
yeah.
If
It
my goal
means
is to actually address it.
The guy was not receptive. 'Cause I said it, and then he sort of ignored it, and I was like, "Okay, I guess we're not talking about that."
Yeah.
So I think sarcasm may have been a better route for me, and I usually go sarcasm, but in this case, I didn't.
Yeah.
But okay, the next question for you is, would you want someone to do it to you?
I'd like to say so. Like I would like to be a person who would want that to happen. Um, but in the moment, I don't know that I would react all that well.
I think there's no world in which I would want if you called me and said, "Hey, David, I think Allison's a real shithead," or if you said, "David, I think you're a real dick to Alice," I both things I would you would get. I would not be. I would say this is not. I would. I can't. I would not receive it well. You know what I mean? I can't. I would not be happy.
Okay, so this was a conversation we had um when I was in New Orleans with my cousins because people had different reactions.
Yeah.
Like we started talking a little bit about this.
Yeah.
Not only would you do it, but would you want someone to do it to you? What about if someone saw Allison cheating on you? Would you want to know? Would you want someone to tell you?
Yes.
Yes.
Immediately.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So then what's the
What's the
difference
line?
there? Yeah, what's the line? Like why don't you want to know if someone thinks you're in a bad relationship, but you do want to know if something like that happens?
Because I don't have. I have no ability to manage the cheating. Okay. Here's a perfect. Here's the analogy.
Okay.
If I was I'm trying to think of a more PC term for it, but if I was a I don't think I can say the word. If I'm a guy that would like to know that my wife is sleeping with other men and I get off on that,
Are you trying to say not say a four-letter word that starts with a C and ends in an uck?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it, because
Is
then
that a
I
bad
know
word to say? Okay.
I think it might get flagged on YouTube.
Okay.
If that's my mentality, and you said, "Hey, David, Allison's hooking up with this guy down the street," I would be like, "Hey, none of your business. I know what she's doing." Or if that was my a kink, and you found out about it, and you said, "Hey, it's not good for Allison to be hooking up with Joe Blow down the block," I would think, "None of your business. Stay out of my relationship. I like what I like, and I don't want you to you don't have a right to intervene." Because I would have a negative reaction, just like I would if you said, "Hey, Allison's mean to you," or, "Hey, you're too mean to Allison." I would say, "None of your business." I think her cheating where I'm not aware of it and I don't like I'm not the C word that ends in a uck, then I think I would wanna know because that's, like, outside of my purview, outside of my control. She's doing something and I need help knowing what I should be managing.
Okay.
Am I saying that well? Does that make sense?
I think so. When we were talking about it, I think it's my sense was that people who would not want to know if they were in a bad relationship may already know and so would feel defensive that others are able to observe it too. So it would just feel uncomfortable if someone else were to acknowledge it.
Yes.
Whereas in that
Yes.
situation, yeah, it could be very surprising to you because maybe you wouldn't think that there's anything that wrong in the relationship, but you would
Mhm.
have an objective piece of information that would suggest otherwise. So it would be the surprise and maybe
Yeah.
all the emotions that come with the surprise,
But
like
I
the
would wa
shame that would come with it,
wait, but I
puts
would
puts
want
it
it. I
so
would want it. If she was cheating on me and you found out about it, I would want you to tell
yeah,
me.
yeah. But I think people who might say no, they wouldn't want to know.
Oh, that's why. Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry. Yep. Yeah. 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 I'd like to say I'd want to know across situations.
Wait, hold on.
Um,
So if Jen's cheating on you and I see it, you want me to tell you?
I think so.
What if she is what if she is holding hands with somebody? You want me to tell you?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think like I understand this like the degrees of difference between cheating on me in a sexual way versus cheating on me by, you know, like the am I the asshole we talked about with that, woman
Yes, yes, right.
like playing with, some dude's balls
Under
with
the
their
under
yeah,
the
in a
under
hot
the
tub,
jacuzzi.
which I just feel can't be true. But neither here nor there. But I think that's just a degrees of severity difference. So I think if you're asking me, would I want to know if my wife was engaging in some sort of romantic relationship with someone else?
Yeah,
Probably. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to think of, like, what's the line, and I think the line, at least for me, would be if my friends know that somebody is operating or Allison is operating outside of the rules of our relationship, then I think it makes sense to tell. I guess that's how I would draw the
Yeah.
line.
I
Yeah,
think that's it. And because for me, it's like, holding hands or engaging in a sexual relationship and anything in between, it's indicative to me that, all right, this relationship is not as healthy as I think it is.
yeah.
And so that's information that I need to know about and figure out why we're not addressing it.
What about when you see behavior that is, in your mind, egregious, but the person is not asking for the feedback? The person's aware of you have a friend who's in a bad relationship, and, an observably bad relationship to your subjective eye,
Mhm.
but is not interested in your feedback on, like, how's it going?
Right.
Do you have the obligation, or do you push yourself to say something?
So I think short answer, no, I wouldn't just volunteer it. I think I would say something if we were starting a conversation. And there are times when maybe I have tried to just prompt the conversation by asking, "Hey, how things are going?" Or "I've noticed this thing and I realize I've not talked to you about your relationship in a while. What's going on?" So I might throw some breadcrumbs out to see if the other person would take the bait and want to talk about it. But if they don't, then I'm unlikely to do it.
And you let it go. Yeah.
What about you?
Same,
Yeah.
same. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think same.
Because I also think that there's so you and I are talking about this as if the person who's observing this outsider.
Mhm.
When I was preparing for our conversation, I saw someone call this like the outsider's dilemma.
Uh-huh.
Like, so the outsider, we're assuming in our conversation that the outsider's perspective is objective and true.
Yeah. Yes.
I,
Yeah,
I
what is the define outsider's dilemma? What does that mean?
well, I think it's what we're talking about. It's the dilemma you have as an outsider of the romantic relationship, observing something, attaching a valence to it or a judgment to it, and then figuring out, do you say something or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you share your insight or perspective?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think that we've been talking so far that that's yeah, like, should that person do it or not? Maybe with the assumption that their perspective is correct. But I think we both have been in experiences doing the job that we do where someone's perception of something is indeed their perception, but it's not necessarily objectively or factually true.
Yeah. Right.
So for like an example that comes to mind for me is I will sometimes talk to leaders that I coach who have issues with people around them and say that, again, you have emotional baggage. You bring the experiences you've had working with other managers or leaders who have been good or not good for you or bad with you. And so sometimes people will observe or experience a leader they're working with now. Something about that person will cause them to say, oh gosh, this looks or feels like this manager who I didn't like or treated me poorly. And all of a sudden, all of this baggage comes up. And I wonder if something similar is happening here. At times, those observers may observe something, internalize it to a personal experience without knowing all of the context, and then volunteer something that may or may not be as big of a deal because it's a big deal to them. It's their shit that they're projecting on other people or other couples.
Yeah, and then so there's kinda 2 barriers that you should be aware of. One is it's not your business. You don't have all the information, and the other barrier is that you are looking at things through your lens, which is undoubtedly influenced by the shit you've been through. So I may look at my friend's relationship with his wife and think he's being mean, but it could just be because I know that Allison wouldn't like that behavior, and maybe the behavior actually is totally reasonable.
So I think that as an observer, That would be one thing to think about before you were to say something is, all right, is this about them or is this a little bit about me? Is this colored by my own experiences? And as a result, I'm more aware of it.
Mhm.
I think there are a lot of just, cultural references on TV, movies, books, things like that, where people will intervene in a situation and they're intervening because coming from a good place, but because something that's happened to them
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not necessarily applicable to that couple.
Yeah.
I think the other watch out there, and we started to touch on this a little bit more, is most people don't like to be told about themselves.
Yeah. 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 I'm aware that I don't. I would rather
Yes.
not be told negative things about myself.
Same. I don't like to be told about myself either. That is not unique to the two of us. I think our approach to doing what we do as coaches informs that understanding about people. When we're coaching people, we could tell them, do this thing. Now, part of the reason we don't is, well, maybe, we don't know all of their context and all those things. But I would argue a bigger reason is people are going to internalize and probably act upon things that are their ideas a lot more than they're going to do those things if someone else suggests it to them.
Okay, can we go back to what you said about people don't like to be told about themselves? And I said, "Yeah, me neither." And that's true. Like I would not like I said before, I would not like it if you told me that you thought whatever, I wasn't a good husband. I would be offended. But if you said to me, "Hey, David, I'd like to spend an hour and analyze you." I would love it. Like, I would like that like, the narcissist in me would be like, "This is great. Let's spend all this time talking. Let's check all the corners of the David box and learn," like, and I would like the self-exploration. I would like you to do that. And I think most people like that. So I guess I'm curious, what's the difference between that? Like, I would like you to analyze me, but I don't want you telling me that my behavior is wrong.
Because you're giving me permission.
Okay.
That's the
You think it's
biggest
just the
difference I
permission,
see.
you think?
I think it is oftentimes people don't tee up an observation about a relationship by saying, "Hey, I'm noticing something. Is it okay for us to talk about?" They just say it.
Yeah.
And I bet that there's a slight difference, even if it's a tough message, if you
Yes.
frame it up that way. Like today, I was in a coaching meeting with a leader, and I heard and observed her 3 or 4 times saying, "I should do this, but these other people don't have any time; they're too busy." And I asked, "Hey, I've heard you say this 3 or 4 times.
Uh-huh.
Why are you focused on this? Is this okay for us to talk about? I want to share something that I'm
Yeah.
observing. Can we
Yeah.
talk about this?"
Yeah.
Now, she's unlikely in that context to say, "No, I don't want to hear what you have to
Yeah.
say." But
Yeah.
but that's just like a way to start a conversation like that with someone.
Uh-huh.
Makes them feel a bit more in charge, a bit more in power. So
It
that's
just
the
makes
difference that I see.
I'm wondering as you're talking about it, I'm and I don't have a good answer, but I was just thinking about like what happens in therapy or in coaching or like even when we, like the assessments we do. Like I did a workshop this last week and there's 20 executives in the room and I had them all take the same motivation assessment. And we spent 2 hours talking about how each person there is motivated differently, how it influences how they work with each other, what behaviors will show up, what would cause friction, and I think that they really, if I'm reading the room right, they really enjoyed that. But we're talking about it kind of in the what if or past tense, this has happened before. But what we're not doing as much of is saying, right now you're doing this thing and it's pissing me off. There's a little bit of distance created and you can be really invasive in the conversation, but I'm just wondering as I'm talking about, or as you were talking about, I was thinking, well, I wonder if part of it is that as long as there's some distance between what we're talking about and what you're doing right now, if it's more comfortable versus if I'm with a client and I will say, right in this conversation right now, you haven't asked me any questions about myself, or in this conversation right now, you're being super dominant, or in this whatever. If there's a behavior I'm trying to change and I say in this moment, you're doing it or you're making me feel this way, I think it's a pointed intervention because it's like it's happening right now, way less comfortable. So I wonder if that's part of the distinction. If I'm talking about someone's relationship and I'm saying your relationship is really shitty, that hurts more than if I said, uh, whatever, 6 months ago, your relationship made me very concerned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I'm
It's
talking about it with a little bit of, I don't know,
distance.
separation.
Yeah, I definitely think
Think so.
so because there isn't much more personal of a topic than a third party discussing someone's romantic relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those were the two kind of just circling back. Those were the two things that I thought about is
Mhm.
make sure you're not just projecting your own history and difficulties, and then making sure that you're getting some permission, even
Mhm.
if it's simple,
Mhm.
to start the conversation.
Mhm.
Anything else that comes to mind for you as to pointers for people who might want to say something, how they may approach that conversation? Maybe time. You started mentioning time there. Like maybe it's do you let some time pass? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm just trying to think of the time because it's not sometimes you're seeing it right now. I mean, I guess you have to sort of make the other, I guess the last principle I would say is something about it has to be worth the social sacrifice. You will change your relationship. It's going to make things uncomfortable, but what you're saying has to be important enough that it's worth you creating that friction.
It's a gamble.
It's a gamble. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So I think that's it. Is you have to be ready and prepared that the message that you're going to convey, although well intended, is not going to land well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that is true. No matter what, unless they're coming to you and saying, "What do you think?"
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And I think that even if they come to you with "What do you think," you know, and maybe it's just because of the fact that I'm a psychologist, but my approach there would
Hmm.
almost never be, "Well, I think it's terrible.
Hmm.
I think he's a terrible person or she's a terrible person." Instead, I would say, "Well, tell me, what you think about the relationship." Like I probably would go more into that psychology mode,
Yeah.
even with a personal friend or family member of mine, at least at first.
Is a Just as we're talking about something, I'm thinking the fact that someone would be interested in your perspective on their relationship, does that tell you that there's a problem?
If
Like,
someone's
why
asking,
if someone's saying,
yeah,
like, "What do you think?" If you're looking at your relationship being like, "This feels unhealthy," let me ask a psychologist, it's probably there's probably something going on that you're
yeah.
reacting to.
I think that's true. If you're asking the question, I've never asked that question of anyone, I don't think. And I've never asked it because I don't feel the need to because I don't think there's anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like systemically. So like most of my friends and family, although I am a psychologist and that's a big part of how I spend my time and my identity. People who I've known, especially for a long time, and I don't think that's their primary lens through which they view me as a psychologist. They would view me as maybe someone who's a bit more interpersonally aware, but I don't think they'd be coming to me necessarily because I'm a psychologist. Although maybe I don't know, maybe that's wrong. But yeah, I agree with you. If you're asking the question, then you probably are thinking something's not right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in that way, there's some permission,
Yeah.
you
For
know?
sure. If you're
Yeah.
if yeah, that's you're opening the door to the
If you've
conversation
done that, then you can
situation.
be
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think overall, advice is oftentimes rejected if it threatens someone's identity, sense of themselves, or sense of comfort. And I think it's important for people to acknowledge that even if they're well intended, again, kind of inserting themselves into a situation like this is perilous.
Mhm. So if it's not, I don't mean to derail it, but just as you're talking about the advice giving. So like you work as an executive coach, you work as a consultant to business leaders. how do you go about giving advice when you don't think the person wants it? I mean, that has to happen a lot for you, right? So how do you what is there a strategy that you use to give the advice?
Yes, and it's a bit of a contrived situation. I am being paid to help support and give advice.
Mhm.
So the permission is understood by both parties in that situation. If they didn't want it, they wouldn't reach out to me, they wouldn't pay me.
Okay, let me just challenge that. Have you ever had an executive who hires you to figure out their direct reports, but you feel like the executive's got a problem?
Sure.
How do you give that person the feedback? Like when the
Yeah.
when the person you're talking about here doesn't want it or doesn't think it's about them, how do you approach is there a strategy you use?
So the first strategy that comes to mind is I start capturing commonalities. So if I hear person X is a bad performer, okay, that could be right. If I
Yeah.
hear person Y is a bad performer, okay. If I hear person Z is a bad performer, then it starts making me wonder,
Yeah.
well, there's some commonality here.
Yeah.
And the commonality is the person I'm speaking with. So I usually will bring it up that way. Is hey Dave, I'm noticing that you're you're identifying a couple of weak links here.
Yeah.
That could certainly be the case. And because I'm talking to you, I wonder what your role in some of this might be, or
Mhm.
how has this come to be, understanding that you're the leader of this team.
Mhm. So you're not just saying, "Here's what I think the problem is." It's you. What you're doing is you're walking them through your kinda journey to how you got there. Like, you're painting the picture so that they see how you arrived at your conclusion.
It's a series of
Yeah.
observations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, going back to that principle of most people don't want to be told about themselves.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Would you approach it differently?
No, I do the same I could probably do more of it's probably a good strategy for me to learn from. I probably am more direct, where I'm not as intentional about saying, here's the series of observations." I will say, I think it's I mean, I'm thinking in my mind, a client that I lost where I was doing some executive coaching and was to present to the board what I thought was happening. And I had done a bunch of stakeholder interviews. And I went back to the board and I had to tell the board, I think you're the problem. The directions aren't good. I mean, I sort of, hey, I'm
Mhm.
worried about these three things with the board, which is creating the friction that you're just creating the dynamic that you're observing. And the board was not happy. And they cut the coaching program after my presentation. But they ended up removing some people and things turned around. I think they respected the fact that I was willing to give the feedback despite the immediate pushback.
What changed? Like just different people on the board, the makeup of the board change, or
Yeah, well, yeah, there was a lot of turnover on the board, but some of the people on the board stayed. And so when they needed more coaching. I'm trying to be intentionally really vague, but
yeah, yeah.
there was new decision makers, and what I had said was right. They realized that it was right, and so they brought me back.
Agreed. And it kind of goes back to, we're going full circle here, the story you started with your dad, right? Is it can be, it can be perilous. There's a lot of downside to
Hmm.
saying something like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And sometimes in a way that's different than the story you shared about your dad, it's helpful because I think a lot of people, especially over time, appreciate candor,
Yeah,
and assuming
yeah,
that the candor is coming from, a good place, a place that you're going to be, an expert. So your candor is coming from being an expert. You really don't have a dog in the fight. You're just sharing your perspective and ideas
yes.
based on what you're hearing. So I think the candor is something most people will appreciate. It's just really difficult.
But I think a combination here, and I don't mean to say nice things about you, but the that candor does have to be paired with the data you're using.
Yeah.
So what I did is I kind of went to the board and said, "Hey, I talked to everybody, and the problem is you because you're doing these three things." But I could have done more of saying, "Here are the quotes from people that work around you in the organization. Here's what they say about the friction that's being created. Here's the information I'm looking at and why I think it's you,
Yeah.
versus me just saying, I think it's
It's
you.
you. Yeah.
Like, my dad could, he could say, I think this about this guy, or he could say, here are the things that are, it's the dolphin body that I'm reacting to.
Right. Here's what I worry about as it relates to this
I saw
relationship.
him on Hinge, and I think that maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that's different. So before we leave, Dave, I just want to circle back to something you said, to the effect of, you like when groups of people are talking about you. One of my goals in life, this would be a bucket list thing for me to do, would be to curate a roast of someone. Like, have you seen those Comedy Central roasts before?
Yes.
Yes. I love watching those. I've seen, I think, all of them multiple times. I'll just watch clips of those. I think they're hilarious.
Uh-huh.
I've offered to be the host of someone's roast in their life to a bunch of people. No one has taken me up on this offer yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want to be the center of attention for 30 to 60 minutes at some point and have people just roast the hell out of you, let me know. I'd be happy to facilitate that for you, that being the center of attention in the spotlight.
That's probably not what I'm going for, but it does make me think we should do that as an activity on our next trip. When
Can
we
you
take
imagine?
all the
Can you
colleagues out.
imagine? I would love it as well. I think it would be hilarious to sit in like that chair and just listen to people like shit on
We should
you.
do
But yeah, it
for
would.
your next birthday. I'm gonna run that. That would be so fun.
I turned 40 earlier this year, and I got mostly very nice messages. Like my wife worked with a bunch of family members and friends of mine, just like create a video, say nice things.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a bit of a mini roast with it,
Mm-hmm.
which was funny. It's funny. I would say,
Oh, and do you remember that I was one of the roasters?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I make sure that I'm sure you remembered.
I do,
I
and
did.
you're part of the mini roasters.
Yes.
But I would say I think it's funny sometimes to see and hear like what about that was like did I expect, and then I can't remember something, but I remember the feeling of like, oh, I didn't like that's not a way I would have described myself. But I mean, you're probably right. Like how
Oh,
people
in the
observe
roast.
things about you, like in the
Yeah.
roast that you
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily see in yourself.
Yeah. That would have been funny to did Jen record it?
Yeah, I have it.
Oh, I'd like to watch it. That would be fun to see what people said about you.
Right. I think you would be underwhelmed because it's more nice than it
Oh,
is roasting. So I don't think you'd get the entertainment value out of it that you think you will.
oh, disappointing. Yeah, we'll do it for 41.
Sounds good. All right, Dave. Well, thanks for the conversation today. That's all I got.
All right, good talking with you.
Yeah, and thanks everyone. Of course, if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to us wherever you listen to us, YouTube or podcast. And if you have ideas, we're currently kind of thinking through 2 different ideas from listeners regarding topics. If you have topics for us or just want to send us an email with a note, please feel free to do so. You can email us at shrinkspaceshow@gmail.com.